Let's move to this now. A High Court judge on Thursday barred 12 Citizen Coalition for Change candidates for the National Assembly from taking part in the August 23 elections, ruling that their nomination papers were filed out of time. The party's legal team has since said it would appeal this particular judgment. Let's look at what this means now. And to discuss this further, we're joined by Zimbabwean Academic, Professor Ibbo Mandaza, as well as Zimbabwean Journalist Zenzele Ndebele. Good evening to you both, and thank you so much for your time. I'll start with you, Zenzele. What else did the court say? Zenzele, I think you are on mute.
Okay, sorry. In short, the court said the 12 CCC candidates and other candidates from other parties cannot contest in the 23rd August elections because they ruled that their nomination papers were submitted late after 4 p.m., which was what the applicants, the 12 applicants who took the case to the court, were saying. So obviously it is a controversial decision, and like you indicated, the CCC said that they are going to appeal this judgment.
And Mr. Mandaza, one of the things that, is quite clear here, Prof, is that a lot of people have been talking about this particular judgment and some of the, the things that have been happening in the lead up to the elections next month. How much of a blow is this, though, to the CCC?
Well, firstly, it's unprecedented in the history of elections the world over, notwithstanding both the administrative issues and the extent to which it's alleged that the CCC were late in submitting their nomination papers. The fact is that ZEC, the body responsible for receiving nominations, accepted those nominations, and therefore the issue of a deadline, whatever deadline means, one expects that anybody such as ZEC would administer a level of discretion, taking into account the various untoward factors, whether it's to do with transport, getting in time for nomination, whether it's whatever, a puncher. And therefore, the level of discretion in any organization, in any body, is one that should be expected. But for the court to rule as it did, in a hard and fast way, is very unusual and unprecedented. To have 12 candidates preempted from election is a blow on democracy, not only in principle, but in effect. It's unprecedented, as I said.
And Zenzele, I wonder, how is the sentiment from others on the ground, in particular listening to what Prof has to say about this being unprecedented and a blow when it comes to democracy?
Yeah, it's shocking. It's happening for the first time. Worse, it's happening in Bulawayo, where the CCC is their stronghold. They were quite sure that they were going to get all the 12, or the majority of them, 11 or 10 out of 12. So this has actually made people to start questioning whether it is worthwhile for the opposition to go in these elections. We've seen on social media people saying probably maybe the CCC should be thinking of boycotting these elections. Of course, there's still a window of opportunity that they might appeal to the Supreme Court, but it's more like devastating for the supporters who were looking forward to the elections. And this is happening just less than 30 days to the election date.
And Zenzele, just staying with you just briefly on that then, what has been the sentiment even on the ground as you look at the fact that the election date is inching very close and there seems to be some mixed reaction from some on the ground?
Yeah, generally this election doesn't have a lot of vibe. It has just been quiet, and for a number of reasons. We've always known that Zimbabwean elections come with a lot of excitement and all this, but it has been generally quiet. But then this ruling has more like just for Bulawayo, just killed everything. Because I don't find it very easy for CCC candidates to go out and campaign hoping that the Supreme Court is going to give them a reprieve or another chance. But if it does, it means that they would have lost again a lot of time in the campaign. So it's really sad for the opposition, but it was joy and celebrations for ZANU-PF candidates. We saw them on social media celebrating, because some of them already, there are about 3 constituencies where there are no other political parties. So if this ruling stands, that means about 3 ZANU-PF candidates, including Tuli Ngube, who's the Minister of Finance in Zimbabwe, are going to go into parliament uncontested. And for those who are contested, they are contested by smaller parties, and they are comfortably aware that they might win this election. So for them, they've won easily, knowing that it was going to be very difficult for them to win this election in Bulawayo. Because I think ZANU has not won a lot of seats. In fact, they've won only 1 seat in Bulawayo since 2000.
Prof, when you listen to some of the analysis ahead of this election, some are saying that these elections have been seen, as yet another test of how far the country has come since late long-time President, Robert Mugabe, for example. And I wonder what, are some of the changes as Zimbabwe will be taking stock once again?
Well, there are no changes really, my dear. The point is that since independence, we have had a system in which the opposition has been regarded as an enemy, whether it was Joshua Nkomo and Sapu, Edgar Tekere and Zoom, Morgan Changra and MDC, and now CCC. We have a dispensation in which opposition parties have been regarded as enemies to be vanquished. Completely unusual, and in contrast to the other countries in the region, and indeed the world over. And as someone said the other day, that you have a new parliament with front row benches for the ruling party and front row benches for the opposition. It's almost as if ZANU-PF and the state do not want to see an opposition at all. So the system has always been geared against opposition. And in this election in particular, it's difficult to see how the opposition can ever win these elections. ZANU-PF and the state have organized so strategically across the country. And talking to lawyers this afternoon, it appears that the problem of these 12 candidates in Bulawayo might be resolved easily. Because, as I said earlier on, ZEC had accepted their nominations. But there's a more serious problem with regard to a double and treble candidature in the constituencies, which has been fomented, designed by the intelligence system, so-called FAS, and that we are heading for a crisis in terms of the electoral process, not to mention its outcome. So these elections, these electoral process so far is badly flawed. And I don't think that we are in for a free, fair, and credible election at all, in my view.
Could we see, Prof, the trend of more rural voters still turning out in their numbers?
That may be so, and it has happened before. It's a question of history repeating itself, but I don't see how we can emerge with an undisputed election. I think we are really in a spot in our region. Except that, in my view, this is a defining moment in which I don't see the trend which began with a coup in 2017 remaining triumphant as it has for the last 5 years. I think we're heading into troubled waters, and in which, in my view, if we accept, as I do, that the coup in 2017 was the beginning of the end of this regime, I think we're heading that way, whatever the outcome is and how long it might take.
And Zenzele, one of the things, of course, that, one looks at when it comes to elections are some of the issues that people are going into an election with, and they are going to make their decisions based on. You as a journalist speak to ordinary Zimbabweans, almost on a daily. What do they say are some of their big issues as they go into this election?
I think one of the biggest issues in this election is the economy. A lot of people are struggling to go by every day, civil servants, ordinary people. The economy is not doing well. There was a lot of hope in 2017 that the new government, they called themselves the Second Republic, were going to improve the lives of people, and they were optimistic that things have changed. Unfortunately, nothing much has changed. People are still, being paid low wages. People are still leaving Zimbabwe in large numbers to other countries. So the economy is the biggest thing that is on the ballot this time around. People want to see change, want to see their lives getting better. There is the issue of service delivery. Over the years, because of the economy, in towns, the infrastructure is collapsing. There's sewer everywhere, shortage of water. That is one of the things that is on the ballot as well. And of course, in some areas, especially in the rural areas, the issue of land is still an issue. People always vote thinking, okay, if I vote for this party or this one, and I'm in a resettled area, am I going to remain in my land, or I'm going to be removed? So those are some of the issues that I think are very important to an ordinary Zimbabwe in this election.
And it's going to be interesting to see then what becomes of this particular appeal, and whether or not it can be as easy and dealt with as Prof seems to say there. But let me thank you so much for your time this evening as we look ahead at the Zimbabwe elections. That was Zimbabwean academic Professor Ibbo Mandaza and Zimbabwean journalist Zenzele Ndebele.